Psilocybe cyanescens is a very common species of psychoactive mushroom that grows primarily in the Pacific Northwest of the United States and Canada. Psilocybe cyanescens has many so-called lookalikes, some of which are poisonous. A few are even deadly. This video will provide a brief introduction to 10 genera, each containing species that could be confused with Psilocybe cyanescens. Please research the legality of picking this mushroom in your area and consult additional resources and identification experts before ingesting any mushroom, psychoactive or otherwise. I will leave links to relevant resources in the description. The first piece of information required to find any mushroom is its habitat. Where does it grow? To learn where a mushroom grows, we must learn what it eats. With this in mind, there are three main types of fungi. First are those that live in symbiosis with a host plant. These fungi are called mycorrhizal and are found in association with particular species of tree or plant. The second are parasitic, eating from the bodies of living organisms. This includes fungal pathogens like Dactylium, also known as cobweb mold, the bane of mushroom cultivators everywhere. It includes animal pathogens like the Tinea pedis that is probably growing between your toes right now, and plant pathogens such as the current record holder for world's largest organism, Armillaria malea, or the honey mushroom, which causes root rot in trees. Mushrooms belonging to the genus Psilocybe, or Psilocybe, are not mycorrhizal, nor are they parasitic. All mushrooms in the genus Psilocybe are what we call saprotrophic, meaning they get their nutrients from dead or decaying organic matter. In some cases, this matter is in the soil. We call mushrooms that grow from soil terrestrial. In other cases, this dead matter is found in the dung of large herbivores, such as cows or elephants. We call these mushrooms dung lovers. In other cases, this matter takes the form of wood chips, wood mulch, dead grass, or plant debris like pine needles, leaves, and cones. We call these mushrooms woodlovers. Psilocybe cyanescens belongs to this last category. It most commonly grows from the wood chips used in commercial landscaping, but can also grow on other decaying plant debris. Here is a brief video going over a few of the key identifying features.
So what we got here is a fruiting of Psilocybe cyanescens. See, they got this caramel cap, white stipe, the bruise is blue, and the spore print will be purple.
The key identifying features for Psilocybe cyanescens are 1. Blue bruising, 2. Purple spores, 3. Growing from wood chips or other decaying plant matter such as pine needles or dune grass in the Pacific Northwest region of the US or Canada. I'm going to add another more basic identification feature. Call it feature number 0. Psilocybe cyanescens is an agaric. This means the underside of the cap has papery, blade-like structures called gills. A mushroom with pores instead of gills is called a bolete, or a bolete. Some boletes bruise blue, but are not psychoactive, and may even be poisonous. For the rest of this video, I will assume that you can differentiate agarics from boletes. Thus, I will not address any boletes as potential lookalikes. The first two features alone are enough to ensure that the mushroom in question is psychoactive. The third narrows it down to a group of psilocybe species known colloquially as woodlovers. This includes Psilocybe cyanescens, Psilocybe azurescens, and Psilocybe olenii. Telling these three species apart without performing spore microscopy is tricky, but we can get a clue from the shape of the cap. Psilocybe olenii tends to have a semi-spherical or globe-shaped cap. Psilocybe azurescens tends to have a round, umbonate cap, resembling a flying saucer or a sombrero. Psilocybe cyanescens tends to have a cap with an irregular or wavy margin, from which they get their common name wavy caps. The habitat in which they are found can help us out as well. First, Psilocybe allenii seems to prefer a warmer climate than Psilocybe azurescens. The further south you go, along the Oregon and Northern California coast, the more likely you are to find Psilocybe allenii. The distribution of azurescens, on the other hand, is clustered around the mouth of the Columbia River, right around the border of Oregon and Washington. By contrast, the distribution of Psilocybe cyanescens is vast. All three species have an affinity for a non-native dune grass known as European beach grass or marram grass. The Latin name for this grass is Ammophila arenaria. It is common to find all three species of woodlovers growing from this grass, but it is uncommon to find Psilocybe azurescens growing anywhere but this dune grass. This may be changing as more and more people are cultivating Psilocybe azurescens in urban areas, but for now, the woodlover you are most likely to find in your woodchip landscaping is Psilocybe cyanescens, or allenii if you happen to be in the southern region of the Pacific Northwest. I will be using Psilocybe cyanescens in particular for comparisons in this video, but I have made an attempt to keep the information general enough that it could be applied to any of these three mushrooms. Number 1. Tuberia. Tuberia is a genus comprising 72 species of small to medium-sized little brown mushrooms. They typically grow from decaying wood, although some are terrestrial instead. The type species for this genus is Tuberia furfuraceae. During the fall and winter, you are likely to find this mushroom growing in large quantities from wood chips or wood mulch. Under certain conditions, the cap of this mushroom can closely resemble that of Psilocybe cyanescens. It is tanned, caramel-colored, hygrophonous, and features a striate margin. Unlike Psilocybe cyanescens, Tuberia furfuraceae has rusty brown spores and will not bruise blue. By contrast, Psilocybe cyanescens has purple-brown spores and will always bruise blue where damaged. Number 2. Psathyrella. Psathyrella is a large genus comprising over 400 species. Psathyrella are extremely common, variable in appearance, and tricky to identify as species. Like Psilocybe species, their spores are dark, sometimes purple. The name Psathyrella comes from the Greek word zathyra, meaning friable or easily crumbled. True to the name, members of the genus Psathyrella can be easily recognized by their unusually brittle texture. If you find a dark-spored mushroom that breaks apart almost immediately when handled, there is a good chance it is a Psathyrella species. The type species of this genus is Psathyrella corrigus. Number 3. Galerina. Galerina is another large and varied genus comprising over 300 species. Most of these species have an affinity for moss. This genus deserves special attention because it contains several poisonous mushrooms, including some that can kill you even with modern medical treatment. I will focus on one of these deadly species, Galerina marginata, but know that there are many more species of Galerina, each with their own distinguishing features. The first feature to consider is habitat. Psilocybe cyanescens usually grow from wood chips or wood mulch. Galerina marginata is usually found growing from larger pieces of decaying wood, especially those covered in moss. But the habitat alone is not adequate for identification. Galerina marginata can and does sometimes grow from wood chips. Always take a spore print. Galerina marginata has rusty brown or orange spores, whereas Psilocybe cyanescens has purple or purple-brown spores. Galerina marginata does not bruise blue where damaged, whereas Psilocybe cyanescens will always bruise blue where damaged. Another key feature of Galerina marginata, especially for distinguishing it from other Galerina species, is the veil remnants found on the stem. They form what is called an annulus or ring. Careful, the ring is not always visible. It can fall off or be removed. Galerina marginata is highly variable in color and presentation. Many guides will tell you to look at the color of the stem, saying that Psilocybe cyanescens typically has a white stem, whereas Galerina marginata has a brown stem. This is not a reliable way to tell these two species apart. Some Galerina specimens will have a lighter stem, and some Psilocybe specimens will have a darker stem. Instead, look first at the habitat, and then the macroscopic features, spore color, veil remnants, and bruising or lack of bruising. Take a look at a video I took of a group of Galerina marginata growing from a mossy log. This was taken on Vashon Island, not far from a very conspicuous patch of Psilocybe cyanescens.
This is a in situ shot of what I believe are some Galerinas. In really good shape. They're growing out of wood, as you can see. Focus, guy. There we go. Very orangey. You can see these are annulate. I think they are marginatum or autumnalis, which is deadly poisonous. Each one of these mushrooms, if I'm identifying it correctly, contains enough amatoxins to kill multiple adults. Here you can see the red spores right there, darkening at the bottom of the stipe. Some more over here.
Number 4. Hypholoma. If you've spent time in the woods in the Pacific Northwest, you've probably seen this mushroom growing from stumps or dead logs. It is called Hypholoma fasciculare, or sulfur tufts, and if consumed, will cause severe gastrointestinal upset. Like Psilocybe cyanescens, Hypholoma have purple spores. Additionally, Hypholoma fasciculare and other members of the genus have a greenish shade, especially around the gills. This green color could be confused with blue bruising, making it a ripe candidate for misidentification as an active Psilocybe species. Fortunately, it is not too hard to tell them apart. Hypholoma fasciculare typically grows in large clusters from logs, stumps, or buried wood. Psilocybe cyanescens does not generally grow this way. Additionally, the flesh of Hypholoma fasciculare is a vibrant shade of yellow. Once you have become familiar with this mushroom, you are unlikely to confuse it for anything else. Sulfur tufts may be the most common Hypholoma species in our area, but they are not the ones which most closely resemble Psilocybe cyanescens. Species such as Hypholoma marginatum or Hypholoma dispersum can be tricky to identify and may closely resemble Psilocybe species. These species will not display blue bruising, however, so if you learn to recognize true blue bruising, you will not mistake Psilocybe cyanescens for any Hypholoma species. Number 5. Stropharia. Most Stropharia species have purple spores. The species you are most likely to see in the Pacific Northwest is Stropharia ambigua. This species features a golden cap and white flesh. The features I just listed are where the resemblance between Stropharia ambigua and Psilocybe cyanescens ends. The much larger size and decorated cap margin makes Stropharia ambigua difficult to misidentify. I include Stropharia mainly because Stropharia ambigua bears an overall resemblance to Psilocybe cubensis, the most well-known species of psilocybin active mushroom. First-time hunters may be unaware that Psilocybe cubensis does not grow in our region, or that it grows exclusively from dung, and mistake Stropharia ambigua for Psilocybe cubensis. This is not a disastrous mistake, as Stropharia ambigua is edible, but it does taste like rotten leaves and will not get you high. Number 6. Protostropharia. Protostropharia is a small genus, thought to contain less than 10 species. Not much information is available online about most species in this genus, so I will be focusing on one, Stropharia semiglobata. With its golden cap, white stem, and purple spores, Stropharia semiglobata could be easily mistaken for an active species in the genus Psilocybe. In fact, this mushroom has been placed in several genera, including Psilocybe. There is one easy way to distinguish this mushroom from Psilocybe cyanescens before you have even touched it to check for bruising, and that is its habitat. Protostropharia semiglobata grows from dung or sometimes fertilized soil, whereas Psilocybe cyanescens will only ever be found growing from dead or decaying wood, dune grass, or other decaying plant debris. Additionally, Protostropharia species do not bruise blue. Number 7. Diconica. Diconica is a genus made up mostly of non-psychoactive species, formerly placed in the genus Psilocybe. The only macroscopic features one can use to consistently differentiate between Psilocybe and Diconica is the presence or lack of blue bruising. I will not go into detail about the species contained in this genus because I've never knowingly encountered a Diconica in the wild. I thought I should include it anyways because mushrooms in this genus are arguably the closest lookalikes to Psilocybe species. Check the description for a link to a video by Paul Stamets discussing Diconica montana. Number 8. Conocybe/Pholiotena. Pholiotena and Conocybe are two related genera of little brown mushrooms. Like Sothorella, mushrooms in this genus are usually rather fragile. The name Conocybe comes from the Greek for cone head. Pholiotena resembles Conocybe, but features a partial veil which can leave an annulus on the stem. Most field guides do not differentiate between these genera. Like Galerina, Conocybe and Pholiotena deserves our special attention because certain species contain deadly emotoxins. One such deadly species is Pholiotena rugosa, also known as Conocybe phalaris. Interestingly enough, at least 2 species in the genus Pholiotena contain psilocybin of their own. Like Psilocybe cyanescens, these species will bruise blue, but have brown or rusty brown, not purple-brown spores. Eating any mushroom in the genus Conocybe or Pholiotena is inadvisable due to the high probability of confusion with deadly species. Let me repeat the last sentence to cover my ass. Eating any mushroom in the genus Conocybe or Pholiotena, even active species, is inadvisable due to the high probability of confusion with deadly species. The deadly Pholiotena rugosa has rusty brown spores and does not bruise blue. Also note the partial veil remnants or ring present on the stem. The type species of the genus Conocybe is Conocybe tenera. This is another mushroom you will frequently encounter. It can be easily recognized by its fragile texture and cone-shaped cap. Number 9. Inocybe. Inocybe is a massive genus comprising over 1,400 species. Inocybe comes from the Greek for fiber head. Sure enough, mushrooms in this genus display distinctively fibrous cap. Spore color for Inocybe can range from white to brown. Many species of Inocybe contain a potentially deadly poison, muscarine. Unlike emotoxin poisoning, muscarine poisoning can be effectively treated using anti-muscarinic drugs. One such antidote is atropine, a synthetic drug modeled after compounds found in Atropa belladonna, or the deadly nightshade. No Inocybe species resembles Psilocybe cyanescens in overall appearance. I included this genus because several species display a blue color at the base that could be confused for blue bruising. Please note that bruising refers only to cases where the mushrooms turn blue where damaged. A mushroom can be blue when you find it, but if it does not turn blue in places where you press or cut its flesh, it is not displaying bruising. Observe this video of my confused reaction to finding this poisonous, blue-footed species. Psilocybe columstrata. Now what on earth is this? This is a new find for me. It's got a quite noticeable blue bruising, which leads me to believe it is active, but I don't know what species or even what genus these are. Growing right next to this little guy. Not sure what that one is either. Galerina, maybe? That's what I'm calling all of them. But there's another one under here. Same kind of bruising. I have no idea what these are. They don't look like any active species or genus that I know of, so maybe it's just some different kind of bruising? I don't know. It's very distinct. Number 10, Entoloma. Like Psilocybe, Entoloma is a massive genus containing several poisonous species. Like with Psilocybe, the relevant toxin is muscarine. Entoloma species can be highly variable in size and appearance, with colors ranging from dull brown or gray to bright blue. One common characteristic of mushrooms in the genus Entoloma is the pink color on their gills. Some species have pink spores to match. To the untrained eye, the spores of Entoloma could appear purple, and if the species in question is also blue in color, then there's a possibility of confusing a poisonous mushroom for an active mushroom while using the foolproof rule blue bruising and purple spores means active. No species of Entoloma will bruise blue, however, so as long as you can tell the difference between blue color and blue bruising, you should be fine.